What's up, everybody? Well, as you know, I I'm usually doing videos on ancient Egypt, ancient Kemet, and in my research, I have discovered similarities between the ancient Egyptian religion and the Bible. But how could that be? How could the Bible, the greatest story ever told, be based on ancient Egyptian religion? In the Bible, it refers to one God, and ancient Egypt had multiple gods. But at some point in time, we are introduced to Akhenaten, the heretic king, who was influenced by someone. Oh, I don't know. Might have been Moses, might have been somebody else, but he was definitely influenced by somebody to the point where he believed there was one God. Now, granted, he had some challenges. He kept referring to the sun as a god, but I believe that's because that's what they knew. If that's all you know, even if it's not the truth, if that's all you know, you're gonna run with it. When you know better, you do better. So they called him a heretic because they believed in multiple gods, many gods. And he was trying to tell the world that there's only one God. And then he died, which leaves us with his son, King Tut, who some people believe was murdered. I think he was murdered too. Which brings us to this. There is viciousness in the world right now, and it seems to be directed towards black people. I was watching some videos, and the reoccurring theme was that black people, for some reason, are uneducated. They don't know who they are. And it kind of puzzled me because I'm like, wait a minute, I'm hearing about black women going to school, getting degrees, and this, that, and the third. So, what you mean they don't know who they are? But then, as I dug deeper into these videos that I was watching, I realized they were talking about the world stage. They were talking about the reason why some ethnic communities shun us. They don't want nothing to do with us because they feel like we don't know who we are. Okay, that's understandable, but I have an American name, okay? I don't need somebody telling me, well, look, religiously speaking, you are Muslim and you're this, you're that. If you know so much more than me, where are my people from? What part of Africa am I from? What is my tribal language? You can't tell me because you haven't done any tests. You haven't gathered enough information. When somebody takes everything you know from you and literally leaves you in the dark, either you have to be divinely inspired to seek the truth, or you have to have somebody outside to pull you out of the darkness. So, which one is it? Are other ethnicities going to sit up and criticize us for what we don't know? Or are you going to help us to gain knowledge about who we really are? Well, go ahead. I'll wait. Meanwhile, I'm going to talk to my black people about this Bible thing. I don't know why people think it's so scary. So, let's do this. First couple of sections. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. So, what is that telling us? It's telling us that there is an almighty creator. First of all, people, let's get one thing straight. God is a title. That is not his name. God is a title. Well, how do you know this, Derek? How do you know so much about this? Well, take your mama, for instance. Yeah, I said it. Take your mama, for instance. Matter of fact, take your mama, your daddy, their brother, and their sister. They all have names, remember? They all have names. But as a child, what do you address them as? You address them by their title, not their name. You address them as mama, daddy, uncle, auntie. You address them by their title. You don't address them by their name. Even when you get older, when you're a grown man or woman and you learn what your uncle and auntie's name is, you still have a habit of saying auntie, uncle. You might use their name, but you're going to say Uncle Robert, auntie so and so. So when we say God, we're not using his name. People say, "Oh, you're taking the God's name in vain." No, no, no. I mean, you shouldn't take God's name in vain. That's true. But God is a title. That's a description of his power. He has a God status power. He's the creator of all living things, the author of time itself. So that being said, how do we come to this understanding that this is God? Okay, somebody had to write the Bible. True. True. But the thing is, who? Who wrote the Bible? Do we know? Does it even matter? Oh, sorry about that. I keep hitting this darn thing. Does it even matter? Whoever wrote the Bible, it doesn't matter who wrote the Bible, but whoever wrote the Bible was inspired by something or someone. When you come up with an idea to do something and you follow that idea all the way to its physical end, it's usually because something or someone that came before you was your inspiration. Your father inspired you. Your mother inspired you. A friend of yours inspired you. A teacher inspired you. It's always something or someone that came before you. Before written language, there was oral history. And people seem to forget that there was oral history. Now, the downside to oral history is that sometimes, depending on how long it's been out, people get the story twisted. They start adding stuff to it. They start taking stuff out. Like they say, you can't add nothing to the Bible. You can't take nothing away. Well, if this was an oral history, then all the damage was done before it was written down. I mean, come on now. I know you're not supposed to leave it up to your own understanding, but common sense and physical history. What do we know? Before writing stuff down, there was oral history. Just like there was writing, cursive writing, before computers. Before we had cell phones, we had landline phones. We still have landline phones, but most people don't even use it these days. Not like it was back in the day, before most of us was born. And even with landlines, the phones looked way different, way different. Each generation puts their own spin on everything that's passed down. You can have a cooking a recipe from your grandmother. By the time it gets to the great grandkids, they might be like, ugh, this got too much fat in it. No. I'm on a low calorie diet, so we're going to change a couple of these ingredients. There's just way too much butter in it. So be it. But now, it's not so much your great grandmother's recipe or your grandmother's recipe. It's your recipe, but it's based on information that was passed down from generations before. Why do I say this? Because in the ancient Kemet history, it is said that the world was born out of chaos. Okay. Now, some people might not agree with that. But if you look at the history of the world, how many times has society accomplished something great? But in order to get to that point, it had chaos. United States specifically. Let's go. Did we not have a civil war? Before all this age of enlightenment and knowledge and all this groovy stuff that people like now, before all the modern age of the United States, there was war, there was slavery, chaos, people getting killed, black people, especially Negroes, getting hung by trees, getting beaten, getting raped, having their children and their parents taken away from them. All this ugliness in the United States that most people don't want to talk about, and the rest of them don't realize how bad it was. But now we're in chaos again. Coronavirus. Rich people pride themselves on being so far removed from the peasants. And the middle class feel like, I ain't rich, but at least I ain't doing as bad as them. Oh no, Corona says right now, all of y'all the same. Now rich people are clutching their purses like a little old white woman that just saw a black person walking down the street. Because they don't know how long that money gonna last. Yeah, it's gonna last them a few months. It might even last them a whole year. But if businesses don't open up, that little trust fund is gonna dwindle real quick. And then I hear about people committing suicide. Really? I'll bring that up again in another video, but let's just stick to what we know. The Bible and the religious beliefs of ancient Kemet are similar because the Bible borrows The writers of the Bible borrow from ancient Kemet. Ancient Kemet was a center of learning. The Greeks call it Egypt. Okay, fine. Everybody wants to be in a Greek fraternity. Fine then, let's do Greek. Egypt. Ancient Egypt was a center of learning. But Egypt didn't get that way by itself. A lot of what went into Egypt that made Egypt so great was borrowed from even older civilizations like Nubia. So, what does that mean? That just goes to prove my point. No matter what you learn in life, it's always based on something that happened previously. I'm not saying the Bible is wrong. I'm not saying the Bible is bad. What I'm saying is that this idea that you can't take nothing from the Bible, you can't put anything in the Bible, is thrown out of context, because the very Bible itself is based on oral history from long ago, from way before the writers of the Bible. They heard the stories. They were religious people. So when they decided to write the Bible, they put all these religious beliefs into the Bible. But the problem comes in is translation. I am so sick and tired of preachers that act like they know 3 or 4 different languages. Really? Do you? Well, heck, if that's the case, I should have came to y'all when I needed help in Spanish class. Whenever you are translating a language that's not your own, there is always room for error, and if it's not checked, you will make a mistake. This is a guarantee. This is not an assumption. If you don't know that language thoroughly, you will make a mistake. And to make a mistake on a religious document and then act like it's no big deal, and then you teach that to the masses, that's messed up. That is messed up. Stop it. Stop telling people that this is the end all to be all. So, alrighty then. Try to adjust this real quick. And it is not adjusting the way I want to. Okay, fine then. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God said, and God saw the light and said it was good, and God divided the light. And what is it? I had a bad camera angle. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm trying to get this thing. So basically, God said the light was good. He divided the light into a greater light and a lower light. And the lower light was the moon, was the lower light was the night, and the brighter light was the day. And the night and the day became one day. That part confused me for the longest. What do you mean the night and the lesser light and the brighter light became one day? I did not understand that. But what it's saying is the day starts at the beginning of, how can I put this? Okay, like 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock midnight. Then you go into 1 o'clock. Well, 1 o'clock in the morning is still dark outside. But it's still the next day. You see what I'm saying? Even though the sun hasn't come up yet, that the day doesn't start when the sun comes up. The day starts at 1 o'clock. At 1 o'clock a.m., that is the next day. And then you just go around to the different hours of the day until you reach 12 o'clock midnight again. And then 1 a.m. again, and the next day. So the night, 1 o'clock in the morning, the night and the day, daylight, became the one day. Because you got to remember too, people worked from sun up to sundown. So things was a lot different back then. Well, that's all the time I got for you today. Hopefully I get this camera issue fixed. And I will chat with you guys later.